Good morning. I was thinking about this song we used to sing in school, so I'm gonna say, good morning to you, good morning to you. We're all in our places with sunshiny faces, and this is the way to start a new day. So thank you all for starting this day with us. Thank you for your support and encouragement. We're continuing our studies from the book of Proverbs. Today we're in chapter 26, and we will be looking at how the unnatural is against the natural order of things. And so beginning at Proverbs chapter 26, verse 1, we read, as snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly, or honor is not fitting for a fool. It is unnatural for there to be snow in the summer, and it's concerning when there's rain in the harvest time. In the same way, it is not common to promote honor to a fool. Why? Because the fool cannot appreciate the natural nor the spiritual things of God's creation. So verse 2 says, as the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. Whatever happens in life, there's a reason, and just as a bird is wandering, anything could happen, or a swallow or a bird by flying. So the curse, which is judgment or discipline upon a people, there is a reason for it. And verse 3 says, a whip for the horse, a bridle for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back. This is talking about judgment, how a horse is without understanding, and it has to be guided to do what you want the horse to do. And an ass or donkey has to have a bridle in their mouth to keep them going in the right direction. And what awaits the fool is stripes to his back, of the punishment of rejecting the truth. And so verse 4 says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. And verse 5 says, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceits. So there are times when people ask a foolish question or make a foolish statement, and someone will try to make that person understand, but it's foolish to do so because that person has already decided that he's for foolishness and not for wisdom. But there are times when you answer a fool according to his folly, but you answer him with evidence to prove to him that he is acting or behaving foolishly. So one of the ways to answer a fool, if a person is just trying to make a mockery of someone or something, is Ask them a question back. It's called the interrogative way of answering a foolish question. You put the question back to that person so that that person will have to tell you why they're asking the question, if for a good reason or not. So answer not a fool according to his foolishness, but do answer a fool with proof and with evidence that may take hold of him. Verse 6 says, he that sendeth a message by the hand of a fool cutteth off the feet and drinketh damage. In other words, you're going to get into trouble if you send a message by the hand of a foolish man. It's the same as cutting off your foot or drinking poison. Just like in verse 7, the legs of the lame are not equal. That person is crippled. So is a parable in the mouth of fools. A parable is a short story that gives natural things to convey spiritual things. Well, a parable in the mouth of a fool is as is a lame man who's crippled. They are not able to use, but they're able to unnaturally understand the message of a parable. Verse 8, as he that bindeth a stone in a sling, so is he that giveth honor to a fool. Now remember, from verse 1, it's like snow in summer and rain in harvest. To give honor to a fool is unfitting or is uncommon. So here, he that bindeth a stone in a sling, just put the stone in the sling and do nothing else. It's the same as he that giveth honor unto the fool is gonna come to nothing. As a thorn goeth up into the hand of a drunkard, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. Now, a drunkard, no doubt, would not even realize that a thorn went through his hand. And it's the same if a fool try to give a parable of earthly things to try to explain spiritual things. Verse 10, the great God that formed all things both rewarded the fool and rewarded transgressors. Transgressors are those who violate the will of God and they trespass against other people. So it's a violation, but God made him, and it's only God who can give him his due reward. Because in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 9, it says something like, God knows how to deliver the godly out of temptation and also to reserve punishment for the wicked. Only God is able to do that, knowing all the facts and the whole truth about things, because it is God that formed all things. And he's the only one who can repay the wicked for their foolishness. Verse 11, as the dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly. You can show favor to the wicked man, yet will that man not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness, he will still do wickedly. So in the same way that a dog can vomit his food, he can at the same time walk away and go back and try to eat that same vomited food. And so it's as sure as rain. When a fool, someone who said that there is no God, when he turn away from his foolishness, if he does not repent, he'll go back to the same way of doing things. It takes turning away from evil that we gain understanding and wisdom. So if you see verse 12, seest thou man wise in his own conceit, wise in his own eyes. You see a man who's wise in his own ideas, then that man is conceited. But the Lord says there's more hope of a fool than of him. When a man is doing that which is right in his own eyes, it's better for things will turn out better for a fool than from him, because we as mankind is to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and lean not to our own understanding, because the heart of man is deceitful and desperately wicked. And until we see that, then we'll go on thinking we're right when we're wrong. But when a person is wise in his own ideas, it's more better for a fool than from him, because even if a man is a fool today, he may hear the right thing, or the right person may witness to him, and he can turn from his foolishness unto God. And this is why we're to call no man a fool, because only God knows a fool and is able to judge that man accordingly. Verse 13. Now we're looking at it's unnatural for a man to be naturally lazy. And so the slowful man said, this is Proverbs 26:13. The slowful or lazy man saith, there's a lion in the way, a lion is in the streets. This man is full of excuses because he does not want to do anything with his life. And so he makes the excuse that there is a danger in the streets, and this is why he's staying home. But verse 14, as the door turneth upon his hinges, so doth the slothful upon his bed. Now, one of the reasons that a door can be locked on the inside to keep outsiders from coming in, the door frame and the hinges stay there to hold the door in place. The door doesn't move. The key unlocks the door to let in who is wanted in and to keep out those that are not to come in. But the door does not move because it's held together by hinges. Well, it's the same way about a lazy man. He stays in bed or in a rocking chair and never moves, always making excuses for being lazy. Verse 15, the slothful hideth his hand in his bosom. It grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth. He just folds his arms. If he could, he'd have someone feed him and chew for him It grieves him to even eat his daily food. That's how lazy he is. Now, I would say that's some kind of lazy, because I may not feel like eating, but if I'm hungry, I'm going to find a way to get something to eat. But this is an exaggerated form of laziness where it grieves a person to even take care of their daily needs. They'd rather stay in the bed rather than get up and get something done. Verse 16, the sluggard is the same as the slothful person or a lazy person, is wiser in his own conceit or his own ideas. He's wise than 7 men that can render a reason. A lazy or slothful man can give more reasons for being lazy than for a wise man to give a reason to him for not being lazy. Verse 17, he that passeth by and meddleth with strife belonging not to him is like one that taketh a dog by the ears. Lord have mercy. That's how serious it is if we start meddling in somebody else's business. There's a spiritual song says, sweep around your own back door before you start to sweep around mine. And then another saying is, it takes 6 months for me to take care of my own business and 6 months for me to leave yours alone. So that's a whole year. That if I'm taking care of my business, I don't have time to meddle with yours. But if I take it upon myself to bother with a matter that does not belong to me, it's the same as taking a dog by the ears. And it's not going to be nice, because you cannot hold or restrain a dog by pulling on his ears. Plus, it'll make him mad, and he'll turn around and claw you to death. So it's better to let other people take care of their own business, and we take care of ours. Verse 18, as a madman, you know what? I'm going to read verses 17 and 18 and 19 together. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife belonging not to him is like one that taketh a dog by the ears. He's as a madman who casteth firebrands, arrows, and death. So is the man that deceiveth his neighbor and saith, am not I in sport? So, in other words, take care of the things that God has given you to do and allow him to take care of you and your neighbor. But as a madman is casting stones and arrows and brands, it's the same thing, because if he's mad, he's angry and out of control, or he's insane and does not know what he's doing. So he may think he's doing one thing, but actually it's doing the very opposite. So, and it's in the same way as the man that deceiveth his neighbor, that lies to his neighbor. It's the same as a man lying to his neighbor and then say, oh, I was just kidding. I didn't mean that, man. No, I was just playing with you. No, if it came out, it was in your heart, and you're being deceitful if we do things and say things that hurt other people and act as though we're telling the truth. I hear people will say a really mean thing and then say, oh, I was just telling a joke. I didn't mean what I said. Well, if it wasn't there, you wouldn't have said it. So verse 20 says, where no wood is, there the fire goeth out. The only way wood will keep burning is if you put more wood in the fireplace. But if you stop putting wood in a fireplace, then that fire is going to go out. So, where there is no talebearer, the strife ceases. When people come to tell you something about another person, they are being a talebearer, telling tales about somebody else. And they're bringing negative news about somebody else. But if you refuse and object to hearing what somebody say, somebody else said, or somebody else did, pretty soon that person will stop coming to you. I remember when I was a supervisor, and I'm a retired nurse, and I was in charge of people who were always fighting amongst themselves. And they'd come to me to settle the score, but only one would come to tell on the other person. And the way I solved that was when the one came to tell me what the other did, I refused to listen. I would tell that person, go get the other person so that they can be here to be questioned at the same time as you. And pretty soon, they stop coming to me for anything. And if a person come to me and say, I got something to tell you that somebody said about me, and my response is, well, is what you're going to tell me going to hurt my feelings? Well, maybe. Well, don't tell me, because I can hurt I can hurt all by myself without you telling me more. So don't tell me what somebody said about me. There is a diplomatic way to keep people from filling your ears about somebody, what's going on with someone else. And so verse 21 says, Proverbs 26:21, as coals are to burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. In other words, is the unnatural fighting against the natural. If you want coals to keep burning, you keep adding coals. If you want the fire to keep burning, keep adding wood. And if a person is contentious to start strife and discord and talebearing, then stop adding the coals and stop adding the wood, and the strife will go away. Because verse 22 says, the words of a talebearer are as wounds. They go down into the innermost parts of the belly. The kind of hurt that our words can bring to other people. Don't just stop when we say we're sorry that we said that. Those words go into the innermost part of the belly, and they're as wounds. And it's painful when people say lies and mean things against another person, and those words cannot be taken back. They're like water spilt on the ground. And if you spill water on the ground is going to soak that water up. You cannot take water back once you pour it on the ground. So are our words. Once they come through our lips, we cannot take them back. We can apologize, but those words sink deep, and sometimes it causes a lifetime of anger and bitterness in relationships. Verse 23, burning lips and a wicked heart are like a potsherd covered with silver dross. A potsherd is a broken piece of pottery, and it's got cracks in it, and you can paint it over with silver or whatever, but you still can detect the crack. And burning lips are tale-bearing lips, and a wicked heart is just like a cracked pot that's covered over with paint, but it's still detected that it's broken or that it's cracked. Verse 24, he that hateth dissembleth or flattereth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. Flattery is no more than a glorified lie, and people flatter people to get their way with people. And so that is coming from a deceitful heart. So when this flattering person or the one that dissembleth with his lips, when he speaketh fair or speak to be approved of, this verse said, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. He's full of and being led by the devil, whose hatred is covered by deceit. He's using flattery to cover that he's trying to get his way with you. And his wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. And these are the words of Jesus, whatsoever is hidden shall be revealed. There's coming a day that everything that we think we're getting away with will come before the Lord for judgment. Now, if we're believers, our salvation will not be in question, but our rewards will depend on whether or not we're willing to confess our sins and turn away from them. So verse 27 says, whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein. Now, there's no getting around that. As a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So if we're digging a ditch for somebody, the old folks say you better dig 2, because you dig one for me, you're going to fall in the ditch yourself. And he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. And all these Proverbs are saying is that we have to be careful by the way our attitudes are about the words of God versus the words of the world, the flesh, and the devil, and to learn how to use word to build people up and not tear them down. Because verse 28 says, the lying tongue hateth those that are afflicted by it. So if a person is lying and they have been labeled as liars, and every time they talk, they're lying about truth, staring them in the face, he's hating the ones he's lying to. And a flattering mouth worketh ruin. So it's not good to flatter people. If you can't find something good to say, it's better not to say anything at all. And people say, well, that's just the way I am. Well, we're all just the way we are, but God does not want us to stay the way we are. That's why we have to be brought up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, so that we can grow in grace and in the knowledge of him. So that's our lesson for today. We're nearing the end of Proverbs. I've been saying that for several weeks now, but we're closer than when we started. So thank you all for listening, and just think about this when you are meditating upon something. If you see something in the Bible, like when Jesus was upon the cross and Pilate wrote a title that said, "This is Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews," and the letters are all capitalized, and then that verse goes on to say, "And it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin." Well, think about the Hebrew. It was written in the language of religion. That title was written in the language of literature and world wisdom. And Latin, it was written in the language of government. And so we can see how the three stools of every society operates based on culture. And culture is based on religion, the economy, and politics. And we can look at the world from that perspective because Jesus is King of Kings and He is Lord of Lords. So thank you for listening today. Hopefully we'll get to do Proverbs chapter 27 next week. And you all have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.